Hey gang, so I'm out here on the deck for what I think is going to be my last little debrief of this 2024 Alaska series. And what I want to talk about in this last of the debrief videos is the process of documenting this trip and keeping it real. So the reason I'm doing this video is because, one, I find this interesting, but also I think that there may be a few of you out there who are interested in either starting your own YouTube channel and becoming the next Itchy Boots, or you are looking to maybe just share your videos with your friends and family. All right, so if that is the case, again, what we're going to do is talk about the process that I go through while I'm on the road, while I'm shooting, and what I've gone through over the years and how I've changed. Now, over the years, I have used a wide variety of equipment to shoot my videos. Right, when I first started back in 2011, I think the GoPro Hero 2 was out, and the stabilization wasn't very good at all on that camera. But again, over time, things have gotten really nice. Now, I used to shoot exclusively with the GoPro cameras. Typically, I would have 1 to 2 cameras going at all times. I would have one mounted on my helmet, right, either down on my chin or on the side, and I would be shooting out, and then I would have another one maybe pointed back at me. And this is a pretty standard setup for most YouTubers out there. If you go out and look, you're going to see that at one point or the other, no matter how they're facing, there's always still another camera in view, right? If you're looking back, you're seeing the camera mounted on the chin. If you're looking forward, you're seeing the camera mounted on the handlebars. And for me, that has always kind of bugged me a little bit, right? I don't want to see the cameras, right? I want to be given the illusion that I am just basically going along for the ride. Kind of like when you're watching a movie or a TV series, they don't show you the cameras, right? Now, I know that for most people, this is not a big deal, that they don't care whether the cameras are showing, but for me, it does bother me a little bit. So when I shoot, I always want to try to hide those extra cameras. So what I did for a long time was to have one single GoPro camera mounted on my handlebars, and then I had a little device that allowed me to turn that camera 360 degrees, so I could shoot forward, I could shoot back, I could shoot around both sides, I could shoot over my shoulders. I could just move that camera to all different places and then shoot while I was riding. Now, of course, all the video was not synced because I was shooting in one direction at a time, but I never found that that really matters whatsoever. Right? I'm out here, I'm trying to tell a story of my ride, tell you what the road that I'm riding is like, and it's just not necessary for everything to constantly be synced. Right? I think most people have no idea when they're watching the videos, other than now because I just told you. Now, this setup was very easy because, again, I had one camera that I was using, right? So it just made my life easier that I didn't have to carry extra equipment and so forth with me and maintain all of that equipment. I used to carry a lot more stuff. Over the years, I've carried my DSLR camera that I'm shooting this video on, right, to get pictures and, you know, things like that. Or maybe if I was in a campground or something and I wanted to shoot some, you know, video of me having a discussion or setting up my tent or something like that, then I would pull out that DSLR camera. But over the years, I just found that it was more trouble than it was worth carrying all of the equipment, carrying the batteries and so forth for it. So I've gone over time to shooting with nothing but my phone. Right? So this is the phone that I took with me on this last trip. So 51 days, and I shot everything that's not shot with my action camera with this phone. Every image that I took, all of the talking head videos that I shoot, again, was done with this phone. And by the way, there was no external mic that I hooked up to, anything like that. I just use the natural microphone right in the phone. And what I'm doing is I'm, taking this video usually at arm's length, like so. All right, so that my mouth is very close to the microphone. And the sound quality is usually pretty good. Then when I get home and I edit the video, well, I use Premiere Pro, and there's some good sound editing applications in there that allows me to make sure that all of the volume levels are good and so forth. So it just works really well, and it's very simple just to carry my phone in and do all of that recording. It also, as I mentioned, keeps the stuff that I have to carry down to an absolute minimum. The other camera that I shot with was this. Rather than take that GoPro and spin it around on this trip, what I did was I purchased myself an Insta360. This is the X3 camera. They have a new X4 out now, which at some point I probably will buy. But right now I have the X3. And this allowed me to have one camera mounted. I just turned it on, and now I'm shooting 360 degrees, right? And then when I get home, that I can then choose, or I can reframe and choose the shot that I want. And you guys have all seen that, and there will be some in these videos that'll be coming out where I'm moving, from one view to another. And I don't do a ton of that, honestly. I find a lot of what's done out there kind of gimmicky, right? The small planet view and all that kind of stuff. I don't do that. But I do move nice and slowly between views on occasion and use it very sparingly. Mostly what I'm doing is I'm enabling myself to get that forward, that rear, that side shot, right, all at one time. Again, then I can choose the frame that I want to use when I get home. So when you get home to edit, this camera makes it easier to shoot while you're on the road, but it does add some extra work when you get back and you want to edit. Because now I have to go through every minute of footage that I shot, right, and then I have to choose those frames, those images, those views that I want to use from this camera. So that's an extra step. I then have to export those little segments that I want to use, and then eventually put them into my finished video. So that is an extra step, but again, so far for me, it is working out that it's worth doing that. Now, also one thing that I did have to deal with this camera was bugs. And that has more to do with where I was riding. Going up north into Canada and up into Alaska, there's just a lot of bugs out. So the camera was constantly getting covered with bugs. So every time I stopped, I had to clean off the lens, right? But 5 minutes down the road, you might get some more. And again, I wasn't going to stop every 5 minutes. So in this footage that's going to be coming out, occasionally you're going to see a few bugs. But to me, that represents what the trip was really like, right? There were bugs on the camera lens. There were bugs all over the windscreen of my bike. There were bugs all over my screen on my helmet. So that represents the reality. So rather than worry about that, after I started looking at the footage, I decided, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to leave them in there. As I said, I think it better represents what this trip was really like. The same goes for rain. There were some days when I just didn't shoot because the rain was so bad. But there were other times when, I just let it roll, and you get raindrops and things all over the camera, and again, it kind of shows what it was really like to be out there riding. So, again, for me, that's part of the keeping it real that we'll talk about here in a bit. One issue that I did end up having with this camera is that I did get a few little scratches on the lens. All right, so again, eventually I'll probably have to replace this camera again with the X4. Now there are lens covers that do come available with this camera, but there either is a sticky lens that doesn't work real well because on cold and rainy days, that cover will get fogged up on the inside and you can't wipe it off, so you end up having to take it off so you can clean it out and clean off the lens. Right? The same thing is true. They have a cover that snaps onto the camera for both sides, but again, that will end up getting fogged up. You end up having to take it off, clean everything off, right? And those little covers seem to scratch more easily than the actual lens does. So I ended up running, again, without any covers on this trip. And as I mentioned, I did get a few little scratches, but so far it doesn't seem to be making a difference in the quality of the image. So I said we'll keep using this for a while and then eventually replace it. And while I'm here, let me talk about the X4, which is what I would be upgrading this to. It now comes with screw-on lenses. Right, before those were sticky, as I mentioned, and it just was a dumb idea. But now they have removable screw-on lenses. So again, that would be worth upgrading for. And one last thing about shooting with this camera. Right, I mentioned that there was a lot of reframing work that was necessary when you got back. Well, also you have to know what you can export to. Right? This shoots in a 5K image, but that is for the total circumference, right, of this circle. Right? So when you get back and you start reframing, you're only going to be able to reframe at about 1080p. So at least I found to give you the best quality is, again, when you reframe, export at 1080p. So that's what your videos are going to be in. And you know, that's actually fine, right? That's what most people are watching these videos on. I know more and more people are starting to watch them on their TVs, but a 1080p video, even on a 4K TV, still looks pretty darn good. Now let's talk about batteries. If you're going to be taking this camera, you're going to need some extra batteries. Now the way that I shoot, I do not shoot constantly. That's just way too much video to have to go through at the end of a long day. So I shoot in little bursts. Right, and usually those are between 2 to 5 minutes long, you know, usually. On occasion, if I'm on this great road and I want to get all of the action of the twisties or something, then I'll shoot longer. I'll shoot the entire length of that road. So shooting like that in those shorter bursts, they allow me to use less battery power, and so one of these batteries will typically last me for, well, about half a day, maybe even a little bit longer. All right, then at lunch when I stop, I can throw in a new battery and even a new SD card if I need it. I'm shooting on 128 gig SD cards, so usually I don't run out of room, but again, if I'm on a long road that I really want to shoot a lot of footage on, well, then I might run out of space. So I carry one of those as well. But I never had to go to that third battery. This particular charger carries 3 of them. But on occasion, I did have to go to 2. So that's all I carry. I don't try to charge batteries while I am riding. I used to do that. I used to set up charging systems in my tank bags or in the trunk on my bikes, and they got to be pretty elaborate. But now I just don't find that that's necessary. All right, just carry this extra batteries, and again, they're enough to go all day long with. Same thing is true for this phone. Right? It typically goes all day with me shooting videos, you know, images, things, and I never had to recharge it while I was riding. I mean, would it get down to 20% at the end of the day? Yeah, on a few occasions, but again, I never had to recharge it. So that's it, guys. That is my setup for shooting all of this video that you're going to be seeing coming out. One action camera and my cell phone. That's all I needed, right? You just do not need this elaborate setup with all kinds of cameras and, you know, DSLRs or even drones. So let's talk about the drone. So let's talk about using a drone on your trip, and I guess why I didn't take my drone along with me and why I hardly ever use it. Right? And it's basically because of 2 reasons. One, it takes up space and it's a pain in the butt to use, at least it is for me. Right? By the time you get the drone out and you set it up, and then you have to somehow attach your controller onto your handlebars or onto your bike, and then you have to fly the drone along with you as you are riding. And yes, I know some of these drones have follow me technology, but I've never found that they actually work all that well. Most of the time you still have to control that drone to some degree. Sterling Noreen, he uses his drone quite a bit on his channel. He does fabulous videos, right? But if you have watched his video where he tells you how he does it, he's controlling that drone, right, while he's riding down the road. So for me, that's just too much work. Right? I'm out here to have a trip, to have an adventure. My purpose of doing it is not necessarily to make these videos. That's an offshoot of what I'm doing, right? I'm documenting it for these videos, but it's not the real purpose of me going out and having an adventure, going on a trip. I am out there to enjoy myself. And if it gets to the point where shooting these videos is a pain in the butt, right, takes up too much time, right, I'm not enjoying it, well, then I'm just going to stop doing it. So I have to do it in a way that is enjoyable to me and minimalizes, right, the effect that it has on my trip. Now, the other reason that I don't use the drone a whole lot is that when you do that, even though the shots are beautiful, right, that's not what you're going to see. If you want to go out and do this trip to Alaska that I just did, you're not going to be flying over the top of the trees and seeing the mountains. You're going to be seeing them from exactly where I'm sitting, right? Either on the motorcycle or standing by the side of the road, right? You're going to see that image that I take, right? Or the shots that I get, again, while I'm riding. You're not going to be seeing some flyby in a drone, right? So again, keeping the experience real, right? I, again, would rather not include those things, right, that I am not seeing. I want you to see what I'm seeing and hopefully experience as close as I can to what I am experiencing. Now, another thing that I don't do is I don't go in and recolorize all of my shots to make them look brighter and prettier, right? Again, my goal here is to share with you the experience that I had while I was riding. And a lot of the times on this upcoming Alaska trip, it was gloomy, it was rainy, it was cold. So I want you to see that in the video, right? Again, experience what I'm experiencing. If I brighten up the colors and everything, well, then I'm lying to you, right? So again, for me, I'm going to show you the raw footage, unedited, other than, just clipped out, right? I'm not going to play around with the look of the image at all. I've mentioned in this video a couple times about keeping it real. So let's dig into that a little bit more. As I said, when I go on one of these trips, it's about having the adventure that I want to have, riding the roads I want to ride, going to the places that I want to see, staying in the hotels or in campgrounds that I want to stay at, right, and eating the food that I want to eat. Right? It is not about, right, showing you things I think you want to see. So I'm documenting this trip, yes, but I'm documenting the adventure that I want to have. Again, I'm not trying to do it to give you the biggest pleasure, right, of the most enjoyment. I mean, yes, I want you to watch my videos. I want you to like them, of course, right? But ultimately, I am just a single person, and I cannot make videos that everybody is going to like, right? I get people that complain about the music that I use. Well, somebody's always going to like my music and somebody is always going to dislike my music. Somebody is always going to dislike my beard and other people are going to like it. So I can't worry about any of that kind of stuff. All I can worry about is being true to myself and having that adventure that I want to have, and then documenting, again, the reality of the trip. There are going to be times when I'm having a great day and I'm feeling wonderful, and there are going to be times over the course of 50 days or so when I'm not going to be having a good time. It might be horrible and raining. I might be having to deal with traffic. I just may be tired of being on the road, and I don't try to hide those things. Right? I just let them happen spontaneously. I tell you about them. And again, some people are going to think I'm bitching. Right? But it always amazes me that people say that they want the truth, right? They want to see reality, right? But then when it comes down to it, what they really want is for people to blow smoke up their ass and make everything look pretty, right? And there are plenty of videos out there that will do just that. So if you don't like what I'm doing, well, I'm sorry, but again, you can go and watch those other folks. So taking an overland trip like I just took, whether it's in a car or whether it's on a motorcycle, right? A lot of that time is of course going to be traveling, actually riding. So you shoot a lot of that riding footage. But there's equally, maybe even a little bit more proportionately of time that is spent off of the bike, at a hotel, in restaurants, going to see museums and so forth. Right, so for me, I also try to show those things because that is really part of the trip as well. It's a big part of the trip. One of the reasons I show the food that I eat a lot, because for me, right, it is a big part of the trip. Right, you go and you try to find these cool little restaurants along the side of the road, and I was able to do that many times on this particular trip, and so it's a lot of fun to show you the foods and the places that I get to go, you know, to experience that. So some people are going to like that, again, some people aren't. Some people want to see somebody riding, you know, for a half an hour, you know, in the same view, and I'm just not that kind of person. I'm going to switch things up for you. I'm going to show you what happens off of the bike as well. And again, you can like it or not like it. Again, that's just my style, is to show you the entire experience of the adventure and not just focus on one little thing. So ultimately what I'm trying to do is tell you the story of this trip. And I'm doing that visually, but I'm also doing it through, you know, audio as well. Right? I'm doing these little clips, these talking head videos, but then when I get home, I'm going to do some overdubs, right? And I'm going to tell you about the places that I was riding in and the things that I was seeing. So to me, again, that's more interesting to me to make. It's more interesting for me to watch. So I guess the bottom line here is that if you're going to do any of this kind of stuff, you have to be true to yourself. Right? Create the videos that you want to create, and then, you know, put them out there, and again, what happens, happens. Right? Obviously, again, at least for me, I want to get better at telling the story. I want to get better at shooting the video. I want it to be easier for me to do these videos. Right? So I'm constantly trying to improve that way. But again, ultimately, what I'm going to do is create the videos that I like, and that's what I suggest you do too, right? And your tastes are going to change over time. But do that, and again, just don't worry about what anybody else thinks, right? You have to be true to yourself and not to everybody else, right? It's phony, right? I mean, like, I could name names, but I'm not going to. There are plenty of people out there who try to be controversial. They try to be a little bit salacious. They are, I think, kind of phony in their approach that they take to some of this stuff. So, again, for me, I don't like that. I want to see truth, right? I want to give you truth. All right, so again, that's my approach to all of this. As I said, you know, take it or leave it. It is completely up to you. Again, all I can do, and I think all you can do as a video creator, is try to be true to yourself. All right, gang, that's it. The videos of the trip will be coming out pretty soon. Right, I've got about 4 of them done. They're all about 40 minutes in length so far, which I guess is another thing that I should touch on. When you're creating videos, the length of your videos, right? Of course, people's attention spans are very short nowadays. But what I have found is that creating videos of 20, 30 minutes in length, they do better for me as far as the amount of view time that I have, and thus, of course, the amount of revenue that I generate from the video. Right? If I create a 5-minute videos, the average view time will be 2 minutes. Right? If I create a 15 minutes video, the average view time will be 6 or 7 minutes. If I create a 40-minute video, then my average view time will probably be around 15 or 20 minutes. People seem to make it about halfway through all of the videos I create, on average anyway. So I just create longer ones and then gets my view time up. And of course, I want to make money off of ad revenue. I'd be stupid if I didn't, right? So getting my view time up is what really counts. Subscriber numbers don't count. The only thing that really matters is your view time. But anyway, back to posting those videos up. I've got 4 of them done right now. And so that'll allow me, I think, to stay ahead. So I have a month that I've already done, and that got me up through about day 20. So I've got another 30 days or so to do before I get done. So you're probably looking at 8 to 10 videos in total by the time I get through all of this. So there's a lot of footage to go through. So, of course, I'm not using all of it, but right, I'm using a good chunk of it anyway. So, all right, guys, that's it. Let me know if you have any questions on any of this stuff. Be happy to answer them. But regardless, ride safe out there and keep squeezing that lemon.